Hey everybody, Coach Toolshed here, and today I'm going to be talking about Spider-Man. As you may know, the review embargo is lifted today, and all the major gaming sites and all the big YouTube channels have their reviews out already, so you can go and check those out. And the general consensus seems to be that it's a pretty good game. Now, as I said in one of my previous videos, I'm going to be picking the game up when it launches on Friday, and I'm going to be checking that out. And as I mentioned in that prior video, I don't really care either way about this game. I have no hard feelings to the positive or the negative side when it comes to Spider-Man. I'm not really invested in the character too much. I don't watch the movies, so I'm not really invested in the world of Spider-Man, but I'm going to be checking it out and judging it as a game, which is how I want to view things. And so I'm going to be checking that out, and from what I've heard, it's only about a couple dozen hours long, so it's something that I might be able to get finished within about a week or so, and hopefully get my opinions out to you guys and let you know what I think about the game. And of course, there's been a certain amount of controversy about the game in this past week. The whole Puddlegate scenario, when there have been claims about a downgrade. And of course, you may have seen my theory floating around the interwebs, where I said that, it's probably Phil Spencer, head of Xbox, had paid Insomniac to downgrade the game on purpose to make Sony look bad. Now, obviously, I'm joking about that, but if you were concerned about the Puddlegate controversy with the supposed downgrade, there was actually a video put out today from Digital Foundry. Now, I don't know if you put a lot of stock into them, but they certainly know more about graphics and technology than I do. And based on what they said in their video today, you can go and watch that. What they said is actually there is no downgrade. They just made some visual changes to the game. It's not actually downgraded at all. And they said based on what they have seen, it actually looks better and it has higher specs than what we actually saw in the E3 demo to start with. So they say it's really much ado about nothing. So take that as you will. I don't know how much stock you put into Digital Foundry. I think they usually do a pretty good job, although sometimes they've been proven to be wrong in the past. So take with that as you will. Now, that's not really what I want to talk about. What I really want to talk about today with Spider-Man is not the quality of the game, because I think it'll probably be alright. I'm not expecting to be blown away by it, but I think it'll probably be an alright game, a pretty fun game to play. We'll see how it goes. But what I really want to talk about is a lovely little thing that came out, and just yesterday we got treated with a trailer for DLC for Spider-Man. A full trailer that Sony put out yesterday for DLC for a game that's not even out yet, and they're already pushing DLC into our faces. Now, there's something to be said about saying, okay, well, we're going to have DLC down the line. We're planning on having DLC for this title down the line. And there's something that's completely different when you're saying, hey, not only is there DLC, but here it is. Here's a trailer for it. Which basically signals to me that, hey, why isn't this just in the game? Is it not done? Because it's coming out in a couple of weeks. Yeah. DLC is coming out in just a couple of weeks. And this is not a multiplayer games as a service game where you're going to be getting, just skins or stuff or a head start on your opponents. This is a single player game that, for an open world game, is not really sounding like it's all that long. 25 to 30 hours. Now, that's a decent length game. I'm not saying that's a bad length, but it's really not a long game. And you're already trying to sell me DLC with full trailers? And this is a Sony exclusive. Apparently, we can't say anything bad about Sony exclusives. But this to me reeks. And we don't know if this is a thing that Sony's pushing, or if this is Insomniac pushing that, or what's going on. But if you're working on DLC for a game that hasn't released yet, and you're planning on releasing it very quickly after launch, do the smart thing. Keep it to yourself. Don't put this out for general consumption, because now you guys look like idiots. And now you have people like me saying that this is a bad move. You have a bunch of YouTube videos complaining about this. Because, what the hell? We already know that a lot of companies do this sort of thing. They plan the DLC, or they have it. This could even be complete. Like I said, this comes out in just a matter of weeks. It comes out in October. And they already have announced November and December DLC. So bing, bang, boom. September, October, November, December, you got content. And like I said, this is a single player game. They don't need to be jamming out DLC. This is part of the problem that I discussed in my last video, where these companies put out this DLC that more than half, usually less than 20, sometimes even less than 10% of the player base is even going to touch, and they try to sell it knowing that most of the players aren't going to go back and play it. But they probably have already bought it. Maybe they threw an extra 10, 20 bucks down on the game. Or maybe you tricked them into buying a season pass, like I discussed earlier this week. And then they put out what is generally half-assed content, and I don't know if this DLC for Spider-Man is going to be any good or not, obviously. But the fact that they're already saying, hey, here it is, here's this title, we got a full trailer for you, and they're jamming a trailer down your throat for the DLC for a game that hasn't even launched. And like I said, I understand the review embargoes went out today. Great. I'm a general consumer. I am the public. I don't have early access to these games. And I'm not saying that I deserve it. But certainly don't sit there and try to sell me story DLC before I've even touched the story. This is what I'm talking about. These games already planning DLC before they even know if it's going to be a successful game with the public. Now, I'm not saying that this game is going to be unsuccessful, because Spider-Man has a built-in fan base, so you're going to be drawing in those fans already, and it's been getting good critical reviews, and usually critics and users kind of go hand in hand when it comes to games. It's not like movies where you can see a ton of drastic differences. Usually in most games you don't see giant differences between critic scores and user scores. Sometimes you do. And of course, I'm not saying you can only rely on critic scores or user scores when you're judging a game. But regardless of the quality of the DLC, my problem is that they're already pimping it out to us. That's the problem. And maybe you don't care. Maybe you're a big fan of Spider-Man. Maybe you were going to buy it anyway. But maybe you've already pre-ordered the game. And now knowing that you're going to be getting this DLC right away, maybe you're thinking, oh, maybe if I would have just waited 6 months, instead of paying 60 bucks for it now, I probably could have gotten a Game of the Year edition in another 6 months for a fraction of the cost. If I had known that there was going to be 3 story DLCs coming out right away. And we don't even know if they're all story DLCs, but you get my point. This is just, it's not a good look. And it's especially not a good look for Sony, because they are supposed to be the kings of the exclusive right now, right? Some people will argue Nintendo, but Sony is the one, swinging it around with the big sales. God of War, Horizon, Uncharted, these games are all selling millions and millions and millions of copies. And I have no doubt that Spider-Man is also going to sell. I would say 5 million is a very conservative number. I think it will easily clear that just on the name alone. It's Spider-Man. I wouldn't be surprised if this game sells 8-9 million copies. That wouldn't surprise me at all. And like we discussed before, with these full-priced games, if you're selling 5 million plus copies, you don't need to be nickel and diming me for DLC. You just don't. And you can make the argument, oh, they're supporting the game. Okay. How often is story DLC do you actually go back and play it? Truthfully, you tell me. How often do you actually go back and play DLC? As opposed to how many times you've bought in DLC. How many times do you really go back and get your money's worth? I bet you it's less than half the time. Unless you're a very frugal consumer. I bet you there's a lot of times where you've paid extra money for DLC that you've never touched. I know I have. And since this DLC is coming out so close to launch, let's be honest. At least the first month's DLC has to be mostly complete. It's launching in just a couple of weeks. So it has to be mostly done, right? So why is that not in the... That's just they want to add more content to get more money out of you, because 60 bucks isn't enough. And like I said, I think 5 million is an extremely conservative estimate, just because it's a Spider-Man game. That's a big name. Aside from the fact that it's a game that a lot of people want to play, I think it'll easily clear 5 million. So that's my point. They don't need to be sucking your wallet dry. Buy this content pack. buy this content pack. If you want to make the content and put it in the game, that's fine. How's this? Just don't waste your time on the content. We don't even know if this game is going to be worth it. Maybe this is a game that the critics love and then the public gets their hands on it. They're like, this is garbage. Now, I don't think that's going to be the case with this game, but it could happen. And maybe this is a game that once people play it, no one's going to want to go back to in October. But they're jamming it down our throats anyway. And I know you could just say, Coach, if you don't like it, don't buy it. Okay, well, you can say that about literally anything. It's not the point. Not the point. I know that if I don't like it, I don't have to buy it. I get that. It's not really a good argument. So you can use it for every game. My point is, I don't like being marketed to buy extra, buy this extra, buy this extra. Especially when they already know what it is. And like I said, they already got the trailer up before the game came out. That's the problem. If you're gonna act like dirtbags, be dirtbags behind the scenes. Don't show it to the public. We already know these game developers are dirtbags with their monetization. We already know that. But don't slap us in the face with it. Because now you're actually making me sour on the game. And I haven't even touched it. And like I said, I was completely neutral. I could go either way, whether I like it or not. But now I'm going in with a bad taste in my mouth just because you were foolish enough to put this trailer out a week early. If you were to put this trailer out after the game launched, it would have slid under the radar. And only the people that wanted to play it would have seen it. It wouldn't have gotten all this negative attention. Now, whether or not you think the negative attention is warranted is besides the point. It's getting the negative attention. Here it is. There's a lot of other people talking about it too. It's not just me. So like it or not, this was a marketing misstep. There is no doubt about that because it got them negative attention. And now it's put a sour taste in consumers' mouth for this game. Bad move, Sony. Bad move, Insomniac. Whose ever fault this was a misstep. I'm letting you know. That's all I have to say. What do you guys think? Let me know. Do you guys think I'm completely crazy? I'm sure some of you do. How many of you are planning on buying Spider-Man this week? Any of you? Like I said, I am. You let me know. And as always, keep it turned to the left.